The Galactic Council had made its decision. For centuries, the Zirac beasts of Velmor 7 had been considered the most dangerous creatures in the known universe. These towering predators, with razor-sharp claws and glowing red eyes, had even wiped out the native Velmorian race. Now, only the beasts remained, hunting in the dense violet-colored jungles of their homeworld. "They are a threat," declared Chancellor Xelvor, leader of the Galactic Council. "They cannot be tamed. They cannot be reasoned with. We must eliminate them before they spread beyond Velmor 7. Many species agreed. The Zirac had attacked every research team that had landed on their planet. The few survivors described the creatures as monsters, intelligent, ruthless, and bloodthirsty. The Council feared that if the Zirac ever left their planet, they would become an unstoppable force of destruction. And so, the decision was made. The extermination order was signed. Within a week, a fleet of heavily armed warships would be sent to Velmor 7. Their mission: destroy every last Zirac. A human's curiosity. Not everyone agreed with the Council. Among the few who doubted the Zirac's so-called evil nature was Captain Jack Reynolds, a human explorer and ex-Marine. Jack had fought in planetary wars, survived deep space survival missions, and encountered some of the deadliest creatures in the galaxy. But something about this mission didn't sit right with him. How could an entire species be purely evil? Jack had seen fear and misunderstanding turn peaceful species into hunted creatures before. The Council had labeled the Zirac as monsters. But had anyone truly studied them? His ship, the Wayfinder, was already stationed near Velmor 7, gathering information for the Council. But Jack had a new plan. Before the extermination fleet arrived, he would go down to the planet himself. Alone. The jungle of death. Jack landed in the heart of the Zirac territory. The jungle was alive. Thick vines curled around massive trees, glowing fungi pulsed with blue light, and the air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and alien flowers. But there was something else in the air too. A presence. The Zirac were watching. Jack moved carefully, his rifle slung over his shoulder. He wasn't here to fight. He needed to see them up close, to understand them. Minutes passed. Then, from the shadows, a low growl echoed through the jungle. Jack froze. His instincts screamed at him to run, but he held his ground. A massive Zirac beast emerged from the foliage. It was even larger than he expected, at least 8 feet tall, its muscular body covered in dark, metallic fur. Its red eyes locked onto him, filled with intelligence. Not just hunger, not just aggression. Jack kept his hands where the creature could see them. "Easy there, big guy," he murmured. "I'm not here to hurt you." The Zirac snarled, baring sharp fangs. Jack knew one wrong move could be his last. But then, something unexpected happened. The Zirac didn't attack. Instead, it studied him. It tilted its head slightly, as if trying to understand why this small, strange creature wasn't running in fear. Jack had seen this kind of behavior before, in pack hunters. The Zirac weren't just killers. They were thinking, observing, judging. Jack took a slow breath. Maybe the Council was wrong. Maybe the Zirac weren't just mindless beasts. Maybe they were something more. And if that was true, then the Council was about to wipe out an intelligent species. Jack had to stop them. Before it was too late. Jack Reynolds sat in front of the Galactic Council, his face tense as he replayed the footage from his helmet's camera. The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed a Zirac beast staring directly at him, not attacking, not mindlessly killing, but observing him with intelligence. "This is proof," Jack said firmly. "The Zirac are not just monsters. They think. They learn. They might even communicate." The council chamber was silent for a moment. Then, Chancellor Xelvor leaned forward, his insectoid eyes narrowing. "Captain Reynolds, we have heard countless stories of the Zirac's violence. Hundreds of scientists and explorers have died on Velmor 7, and now you claim they are not dangerous." Jack clenched his jaw. I never said they weren't dangerous. But danger doesn't mean they deserve extermination. He looked around at the alien representatives. Humans were once called violent, reckless, uncontrollable. But look where we are now, sitting in this very council. We were given a chance. A murmur spread through the room. Some delegates looked uncertain. Others shook their heads. Zelvor's mandibles twitched. The difference, Captain, is that humanity proved it could be reasoned with. The Zirak have proven only their instinct for slaughter. Jack took a deep breath. Then let me prove you wrong. Let me go back. Give me time to understand them. A loud scoff came from the side. Admiral Ralvik, the head of the Council's military forces, stepped forward. His armored uniform gleamed under the lights. You want time. You have exactly 5 days. The extermination fleet launches after that. Jack frowned. That's not enough. That's all you're getting, Ralvik interrupted. His reptilian eyes gleamed. If you fail, Captain, the Zirak will be nothing but ashes. Jack knew he had no choice. He turned and walked out of the chamber. He had 5 days to prove the Zirak deserved to live. And if he failed, an entire species would die. Jack Reynolds had 5 days to prove the Zirak beasts weren't mindless killers. 5 days to convince the Galactic Council to stop their extermination fleet. Failure meant genocide. Back aboard his ship, the Wayfinder, Jack prepped for his second descent onto Velmor 7. This time, he had a plan. I need to find out how they communicate, he muttered to himself, reviewing the footage from his helmet cam. The Zirak had hesitated when they saw him. They had studied him. That wasn't the behavior of a mindless predator. The Wayfinder's AI, it is EURA, chimed in. Captain, if the Zirak are intelligent, they may have a social structure. You'll need more than just observation. You need interaction. Jack sighed, which means getting closer, back into the wild. The jungle of Velmor 7 was just as hostile as before. Thick vines, eerie glowing plants, and the ever-present feeling of being watched. But this time, Jack wasn't just exploring. He was hunting for answers. Jack moved slowly through the jungle, his helmet scanning for any signs of Zirak activity. He didn't have to wait long. A deep, guttural growl rumbled through the trees. Jack turned just in time to see a Zirak pack emerging from the shadows. 4 of them, larger than wolves, more powerful than any predator he had ever faced. Their red eyes locked onto him, their sharp claws flexing. This was it. Jack lowered his weapon. The Zirak leader, the same one from before, stepped forward. It bared its fangs, but didn't attack. Instead, it let out a series of low, throaty growls. Jack's heart pounded. It was talking. Slowly, carefully, he mimicked the sound. The beast paused. The other Zirak also hesitated, their deadly stance shifting slightly. Jack had their attention. Come on, Jack whispered. Talk to me. The Zirak leader huffed, then tilted its head, just like a questioning human. Jack realized something in that moment. These weren't mindless beasts. They were trying to understand him. And if he could break through that barrier, then maybe, just maybe, he could save them. The Zirak leader stood just a few feet away, its red eyes locked onto Jack. The other 3 beasts remained still, watching, waiting, not attacking. Jack took a slow breath. This was his chance. Carefully, he repeated the low, throaty growl the Zirak had made earlier. His voice was rough, uncertain, but it was enough to make the beast's ears twitch. The leader huffed, then responded with a slightly different sound, a deep rolling growl mixed with a short bark. Jack didn't know what it meant, but he knew one thing for sure. This was not random. It was language. Understanding the beasts. Jack knelt down, making himself look less threatening. He carefully repeated the sound the Zirak had just made. The pack reacted. The leader stepped closer. It tilted its head, sniffing the air, as if trying to figure Jack out. The other Zirak made soft, rumbling noises. Were they talking to each other? Jack resisted the urge to move. One wrong move, and this fragile trust could shatter. Slowly, the Zirek leader extended one massive clawed paw and pressed it against the ground. Jack frowned. What was it doing? Then, something clicked in his mind. It was making a mark in the dirt. A symbol. Jack's heart pounded. This wasn't just communication. This was writing. "Holy hell," he whispered. "You're more advanced than anyone thought." A dangerous realization. Jack carefully reached down and mimicked the Zirek's movement, dragging his fingers through the dirt. The beast watched closely, its glowing eyes flickering with something almost human. Jack grinned. This was proof. If the Zirek had symbols, they had a written system. If they had a written system, they had culture, knowledge, and intelligence. The Galactic Council was about to exterminate an advanced species. Jack had to get back to his ship. He had to show this to the Council before the extermination fleet arrived. But as he turned to leave, the Zirek leader suddenly growled, low and urgent. Jack stopped. What? The other Zirek lifted their heads, sniffing the air. Their muscles tensed. Jack felt it too. Something was wrong. Then he saw it. A black drone, hovering above the trees, scanning them with a glowing blue eye. The Council was watching. And if they saw what Jack had just discovered, they would make sure no one else ever found out. The black drone hovered above the jungle, its glowing blue eye scanning Jack and the Zirek. A chill ran down his spine. The Council knew. Somehow, they had been watching him, tracking his every move. If they had seen the Zirek's writing, if they realized what he had just discovered, they wouldn't let him leave this planet alive. Jack turned to the Zirek leader. The beast had lowered its stance, its red eyes locked onto the drone. The other Zirek growled softly, sensing the danger. "We need to move," Jack muttered. The drone beeped, then shot up into the sky. It was sending a signal. Jack's communicator crackled to life. "Captain Reynolds." The voice belonged to Admiral Ralvik, the head of the Galactic Council's military forces. His tone was cold, ruthless. "Your mission is over. Stand down and prepare for extraction." Jack clenched his jaw. "Not happening, Admiral." Ralvik chuckled darkly. "I was hoping you'd say that." In the distance, Jack saw a burning light in the sky. Dropships. The Council's forces were already descending. They weren't just coming for the Zirek anymore. They were coming for him. The escape begins. Jack turned to the Zirek leader. "You understand me, don't you? You know I'm trying to help." The beast didn't respond with words, but its red eyes flickered with understanding. Then it moved. With a powerful leap, the Zirek charged through the jungle, signaling for Jack to follow. Jack didn't hesitate. He sprinted after the beast, weaving through thick trees and glowing plants. Behind them, the jungle exploded in flames as Council forces began their attack. Gunships hovered in the air, firing plasma rounds into the trees, trying to flush them out. The Zirek pack moved like shadows, dodging and weaving through the chaos. Jack's communicator crackled again. "CERA, I need an emergency evac," Jack shouted. The AI responded instantly. "Understood, Captain." "The Wayfinder is en route, but Council forces have activated a planetary lockdown. We'll have to break through." Jack cursed under his breath. The Council wasn't just trying to kill the Zirek. They were trying to make sure no one ever learned the truth. A desperate plan. The Zirek leader suddenly stopped at the edge of a cliff. Below, a massive underground cave system stretched into the distance. The beast turned to Jack and growled softly. Jack frowned. A hiding place. The Zirek leader didn't move. It was waiting. Jack realized something. It wasn't just offering him a place to hide. It was trusting him to follow. Above them, the roar of Council warships grew louder. Time was running out. Jack took one last look at the burning jungle. Then, without hesitation, he jumped. The Zirek followed. As they disappeared into the darkness below, the Council ships circled above, scanning, searching. Jack wasn't just running anymore. He was leading the Zirac to survival. But could he still stop the extermination fleet before it was too late? Jack hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact. The Zirac landed beside him, its powerful limbs absorbing the fall with ease. Around them, the underground cavern stretched into darkness, lit only by the faint blue glow of strange, bioluminescent plants. Above, the roar of council warships echoed through the jungle. They were searching, scanning. But for now, the thick rock above them kept them hidden. Jack took a deep breath. He had survived the attack. But survival wasn't enough. He had to stop the extermination fleet, a hidden civilization. The Zirac leader moved deeper into the cave, its red eyes glowing softly in the dim light. It wasn't running anymore. It was leading Jack somewhere. Jack followed cautiously, his heart pounding. They passed through a narrow tunnel, the walls covered in strange markings, the same symbols the Zirac had drawn in the dirt earlier. Only now, they were carved into the stone. Jack's eyes widened. This wasn't just a cave. It was a ruin. And that meant only one thing. The Zirac hadn't just learned to write. They had a history, a culture, a civilization. Jack ran his fingers over the carvings. Some depicted hunting. Others showed groups of Zirac gathered together in what looked like a village. But then he saw something that made his stomach turn. A massive warship carved into the rock. And beneath it, Zirac running in fear. Jack recognized the design. It was a Galactic Council warship. The truth buried in stone. Jack turned to the Zirac leader, his voice tight. "This isn't the first time they've tried to wipe you out, is it?" The beast didn't answer, but Jack didn't need it to. The truth was right in front of him. The Zirac had once been a thriving species. They had cities, knowledge, and a way of life. But the Council had decided they were too dangerous. So, they destroyed everything. And when the survivors became nothing more than wild hunters, the Council pretended they had always been that way. Jack clenched his fists. They don't want to kill you because you're dangerous. They want to kill you because they don't want anyone to know the truth. The Zirac leader huffed softly, its red eyes locking onto Jack's. It understood. And for the first time, Jack realized something else. The Zirac hadn't just been tolerating him. They had been testing him, seeing if he was worthy of their trust. Now, Jack knew the truth, but the Council's extermination fleet was still coming. And if he didn't stop them, history would repeat itself. Jack turned back toward the tunnel. "I need to get to my ship." The Zirac leader growled low, then turned and let out a deep, echoing howl. From the shadows, dozens, maybe hundreds, of glowing red eyes flickered to life. Jack's breath caught. The Zirac were not alone. They had survivors, a resistance. And now, for the first time in centuries, they had a human fighting for them. Jack stood frozen as hundreds of glowing red eyes stared at him from the darkness. The Zirac were not just a scattered species. They were an army, a hidden force, waiting, surviving. And now, they had a reason to fight. Jack turned to the Zirac leader. "If we don't stop that fleet, everything here, your people, your history, will be wiped out." The beast growled low, then threw its head back and howled. The sound echoed through the cavern, answered by dozens of other howls. The Zirac were ready. It was time for war. Breaking through the blockade. Back at the surface, the jungle burned. Galactic Council warships hovered overhead, scanning, searching for any sign of Jack. Dropships had already landed, their troops moving through the ruins. The extermination fleet was only hours away. Jack and the Zirac moved like shadows through the wreckage. The beasts were faster than the Council soldiers, striking without a sound and vanishing into the trees. Jack used the distraction to reach his ship, the Wayfinder. "SERA, fire up the engines," he ordered as he sprinted up the ramp. "We need to get off this planet. Now." The ship's AI responded instantly. "Captain, the planetary lockdown is still active. You won't make it out." Jack cursed. The Council had blocked all outgoing transmissions and escape routes. No one was supposed to leave this planet alive. But they weren't counting on the Zirac. The beasts swarmed the landing pads, tearing through the Council's forces. Ships exploded in the distance. Soldiers screamed. Jack grabbed the controls and gunned the engines. He had one chance. "Hold on," he shouted. The Wayfinder blasted into the sky, dodging fire from the warships above. But the lockdown field was still active. If Jack couldn't break through it, the fleet would arrive, and the Zirac would be wiped out. Then, the Zirac leader howled. From below, a massive shockwave of energy erupted from the ground. The ancient ruins were activating. Jack's scanners went wild. The Zirac weren't just survivors, they had technology. And now, they were using it. The burst of energy shot into the sky, disrupting the blockade. Jack didn't hesitate. He punched the thrusters and shot through the opening. He was free. Now he just had to expose the truth before the fleet arrived. The broadcast that changed everything. Jack opened a direct channel to the Galactic Council. Live. Unfiltered. "This is Captain Jack Reynolds. I have proof that the Zirac are an intelligent species and that the Council has been lying for centuries." He uploaded the footage of the ancient ruins, the symbols, the Zirac's communication. Across the galaxy, billions watched. The truth couldn't be buried anymore. The Council was forced to halt the extermination fleet. Protests erupted across the galaxy. The Zirac were no longer just monsters in the dark. They were a people who had been wronged. And now, they had a future. Jack leaned back in his seat, exhausted but victorious. He had saved an entire species. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. Because if the Council had lied about the Zirac, what else were they hiding?